Welcome, students, to another lesson with Mr. Kinnett. Today's lesson is 6.2, and what we focus on in this lesson is finding the percent of a number mentally. So this is one of the few times I'll say, let's do some mental math. But again, if you're struggling with the mental math, that's okay. You're able to write it down and get it right. This is just a good way to make some of our math go fast, especially on real-life percent problems. So go ahead and pause right here and copy down what you see. Okay, welcome back, students. So our essential question here is, what are many common percentages? We're trying to mentally memorize these so we can use them quickly. And I am going to highlight a method. Remember, there's more than one method, but this is just a method for trying to do mental math rather quickly. And I made sure in my example here to use a percentage that wasn't exactly 10% or could be broken up by a multiple of 10. So I'll show how we're going to do that. Okay, so step one is find 10% of the given amount. Well, 10% of 700 is simple. If you did not know from our chart, which will actually show up on the next slide, 10% is equivalent to 1/10, which means all you have to do is move the decimal point 1 point to the left. That's the same as dividing by 10 or multiplying by 1/10. So 10% mentally is 70. So if we're trying to find 45%, how many times are we going to have to add up the 70 amount? Yeah, it's going to be 4.5 times. So what we actually have to do is multiply 70 by 4 in our head, and that would get us the 40% value. So 40% is going to be 280. What is 5%? Well, we already have this 10% value, which is 70. So 5% is half of the 70 because 5% is half of 10%. And half of 70 is 35. So all we need to do to get the 45% is to add our 35 here to the 280 we already had, and that's going to get us 315. So 45% of 700 is 315. Again, if this process seems complex, don't worry. When you practice this skill, it actually gets a lot faster and easier. And if it does not get faster and easier, we can always just do the math on paper, so don't worry. Our next slide here is going to be a large table of common percent fraction equivalents. This top part, which I was trying to do in red, and the bottom fraction part in blue, but that was extremely frustrating today. So to make it go a little faster, I just left it as the top value is the percent. So this is 12.5%, and that's equivalent to 1/8 as a fraction. Just to make sure you do believe me, that would be 12.5%. So that's over 100. And we're trying to find out what fraction that would be. So we actually need to do equivalent fractions here. And if I move that once, we now have 125 over 1,000. And then when you divide by their common number, we can reduce this even farther. It turns out 125 goes into both of these. You get 1/8. So that's how this 12.5% here is turning into 1/8. And that works for all of these. If you don't believe me, you can do a little bit of extra math here and show me. But please just pause right here and copy down what you see if it helps. This is a 4x4 table. And then we have a heading section on top of it. So it's a 4x4 table with a heading section. And really this is copy it down. And our goal is to mentally memorize these percentage translations into fractions. And remember, these 60% and 3/5 or 62.5% and 5/8 are the same number. It's just converted from a percent into its fractional form. So go ahead and pause and copy it down. Okay, we get another model here, and this one's a little bit easier because 20% is a multiple of 10. So again, how we do this mentally is we're looking for 20%. Ooh, that word off. What operation is that word off? We were learning that in 6.1's lesson. If the item she buys costs $110 originally, we're trying to find out how much will she save with her coupon, as well as what is the cost of the item after she's bought it. So we need two different parted answers here. So mental math here, the 10%, again, we just move 110's decimal point once to the left. So 10% is $11, which means 20% is $22. So we have our first answer there. That's one of the answers. The coupon amount gets us 22% off. The final cost, we just have to do the operational word for off. What operation is off? Yeah, you're right, it's subtract. So we have to do 110 minus our 22, and that gets us 88. So the final cost is $88. And that's our second answer there. And that's how we do our mental computations. If you have any questions, remember, write down your questions in the question columns here and ask them in class. It's good to add to these notes, but remember, you're not allowed to take away. You have to add anything you want, but you can't take away. I'll see you soon.